Hello everybody, we are live for WWE Smackdown tonight. Another Smackdown Watch Party, 2 hours of wrestling action featuring more for the United States Championship, a main event of Asuka versus Charlotte Flair, but more importantly, because it's WWE, more bloodline stuff, so it doesn't really matter what's going on in the rest of the world. We really worked out this time last week that the bloodline is pretty much the only thing that the WWE care about because it's netting them the ratings, and they are very happy about that. Welcome everyone, my name is Tom Colohue, and I'll be your guide through all things wrestling then, now, forever, together. We are going live to SmackDown where Jey Uso, with a slight delay in the audio, is walking backstage. As you know, Jey Uso walking backstage is the height of drama. Walking backstage is a big risk in WWE. They are hyping up Jey Uso on the warpath on SmackDown tonight. The man's got a chair. Jimmy Uso now firmly injured, so it comes down to Jey and it comes down to Roman. Let's not forget, of course, that it also comes down to Solo Sikoa, but we are where we are with that one. Welcome to Joe, welcome to Justin, welcome Airwolf, welcome Peter on a separate account, welcome Gomar, and thank you Connor. Welcome back, mate, says yo again. You've been a member for 12 months now. Pretty much since the point at which we went monetized here. I thought Charlotte Flair, didn't I? We are not main eventing. It is Bloodline main eventing. We are opening with Bianca Belair versus Asuka. Bianca Belair does not look like she's dressed to wrestle, so I'm guessing this is actually just an opening promo. Not a bad thing to have. Welcome back, Connor. How you doing, mate? Venom is here as well, saying hi, Tom. Hello, Venom. How are you? Callie says hi again as well. Hello, Callie. Sean is here, says hello, Tom. And Bayley says, I was watching last week's spoiler warning and someone asked how long it would take you to go through your through the 48 cans of Cherry Coke. Your answer, a couple of days. I've been attempting to have some self-control. For those not aware, for my birthday, one of the many gifts I got was 48 cans of Cherry Coke. That was a week ago. This is the 17th one that I've had. It's not great, is it? It's not great. Thank you, Connor, on both sides now. A 23rd month subscribing on the Twitch side. Always good to see you, mate. I don't want to immediately jump on the fact that you immediately jump in and start donating. I very much appreciate it. But in general, always nice to see you. How you doing? Are you still playing like Blood on the Clock Tower? Because I remember Ed jumping in there to tell you to get back in the cupboard. Which sounds like telling you to get back in the closet, but it's slightly different. Weird world we live in. Connor says, how's everyone been? Jaden says, hey Tom. Leon saying hello Tom as well. 456 says hello Tom and chat. Let's have a good one tonight. Peter says, I bet Tom misplaced the Lego the key to the cupboard. Lego? How'd you get Lego? Gomar says, finally able to properly watch a watch along today. Quite happy about that. Well, welcome to the show, mate. Callie says, I'm on the lemon water now, trying my best to be healthy. I get it. At the moment, I'm lifting more. In fact, the other 24 pack, I've just been benching it. It's not a huge amount of weight, but it's good for general fitness. We do indeed have an opening promo of Bianca Belair. The crowd are not exactly responding to the fact that she's having a big whine. The crowd not responding to her at all. Still playing a bit? Good, mate. Good. Graham says Charlotte is better than Bianca. Charlotte's good, but Bianca's also good. Eric says, welcome to Friday Night Asuka. We will, in fact, have Bianca versus Asuka tonight for, I'm used to saying the SmackDown Women's Championship. Is it the WWE Women's Championship? Is that what this one's called? No worries, Connor. It was this time last week. We had ourselves a good old-fashioned birthday stream. I do think, unfortunately, when it comes to the streams at the moment, it's not being advertised to everyone it used to be. There's a number of different reasons for that. I'm not exactly upset about it. It's just something that happens, largely because of Paris. I went off to Paris, and when we came back, the numbers were not quite the same. And that's YouTube, and that's something you get used to. But it's nice to see so many people popping back in. We're getting quite a few people remembering us, jumping in and saying hi, and I think a lot of people just have quite busy lives now. Especially if you're a UK viewer watching at 1 a.m. It's not easy. Venom says Bianca doesn't like it that she's not the only golden girl on SmackDown now. Anytime there is a Charlotte, she'll be firmly in the way. Of course, Peter, of course. Callie thinks Bianca is getting boring now. Eric does confirm it's a WWE Women's Championship. Cool, so it's a Women's World Championship on the other side. God says, nice, how was Paris? It was absolutely lovely. Had an absolutely great time. It was just a glorious week of real in-depth breakfast, rooftop bar cocktails, and walking many miles. That wasn't what we were aiming for, but that's where it ended up going. Charlotte Flair just winking at the camera there, which in many ways is not fair and is not called for. Now, one of the matches that's currently being built up for SummerSlam is a triple threat. Asuka versus Bianca versus Charlotte Flair. Now, they're obviously teasing Charlotte Flair versus Bianca Belair long term, which is not a surprise to me. The fact that Bianca Belair is in the ring with Charlotte Flair right now tells you kind of everything you need to know. Plus, Iyo Sky is a briefcase, and Iyo versus Asuka seems more likely to be a match going forward. So, quick question for everyone here. If the triple threat does happen, who do you see leaving with the championship at SummerSlam? Asuka, the current champion, Bianca Belair, one of the challengers, or Charlotte Flair, the other challenger? Venom says, I still don't understand why we haven't properly seen The Way yet. Primarily because of injuries and a lack of interest in Dexter Lumis. Charlotte immediately gets the crowd a lot more fired up than Bianca Belair had. In many ways, really waking the crowd up. A little bit because she's Charlotte Flair, and a little bit, I feel, because of where she is. Venom, you've asked about Johnny every single show. We had a conversation about repeat questions. You got to get past it. I told you everything I know. Kelly says, would love to go to Paris. Last time I went was a child. Nice is a lovely place to visit with all the fountains. I like the opera as well. That was quite nice. Connor thinks Asuka will pick up the win. Pete says, Charlotte can wink at me anytime. She winked at the camera, and as such, she winked at you. Leon thinks Asuka. Venom thinks Charlotte. Eric thinks Charlotte as well. And Callie says Asuka, so someone will probably get involved. I mean, I'm not sure how that would work for a triple threat. There's already two people involved. Leon says, lack of interest in Dexter Lumis. I quite like him. You may, and that's very fair. But the WWE main roster creative team really aren't sure what to do with him. Charlotte very much challenging Bianca here, should Bianca win the championship, suggesting that she's going to stay out of the proceedings. I don't believe for a second she's going to stay out of proceedings. Joe, no worries. People can drop in and out, spoiler warning. I do not judge. People are always welcome whenever they're here. If they're not here, they're still welcome. It's fine. Eric says, I see Asuka retaining because it'll be a full circle moment for Asuka, as we'll get revenge for Charlotte Flair taking away her streak. I wasn't sure you'd get that in a triple threat. Now, I don't believe Asuka's ever beaten Charlotte clean. The only time they advertise it as such, Nia Jax had attacked Charlotte Flair earlier in the night. Connor says, I imagine it would be hard to write for a murderer who does not talk but likes to paint. Pretty much, yeah. How do you write for Dexter Lumis? How do you write feuds involving Dexter Lumis? How do you connect him to that audience? This doesn't really make sense, unfortunately. So it's a challenge that they've not been able to rise to, especially without Indy Hartwell to humanize him. This is an attack from behind moment. No, okay. Bianca Belair had an opening there. I'm still not sure who's face and who's heel. Asuka is already backstage, not just holding the gold, but with the gold on her face. Gotcha, Callie. And Dylan says hi, Tom. Hello, Dylan. Bianca Belair left in the ring after a 10-minute promo segment in which the crowd was much more interested in Charlotte Flair. That's very telling for me. They've left Bianca in the ring swinging her hair around, but I think that was a very clear indication of where we are now. No need to be sorry, Dylan. If you don't catch spoiler warning, that's absolutely fine. Do your thing. As I say, spoiler warning is not a show that I'm going to be sat here demanding anyone attend. It's a news show, and if you'd like to hear the news, by all means pop in. If you're okay, that's also okay. Whatever works for you guys. Eric says, I hope Liv gets upset that Raquel gets a title shot, but not her, so Liv gets involved in the Raquel Rhea match. That would be very, very similar to where we are with Charlotte, Asuka, and Bianca. We have ourselves a United States Championship Invitational. AJ Styles, Santos Escobar, Butch, and Grayson Waller potentially competing. Butch makes sense, but I think the obvious choice here is AJ Styles. I've been of the opinion for a while that AJ Styles will be the one to dethrone Austin Theory. Connor, I cannot say I'm too surprised because you do have yourself a habit of this, and I do want to stress thank you very kindly for this. It really does make a difference to the growth of the channel, really helps us grow, and really does help for money in the pocket, which I can then use to further the growth of the channel. Every time there's a channel membership used, anytime there's anything like that, I can take that money and I can put it back into advertising the channel, into growing the channel, into making the channel a success. A large part of that is literally at this point because of your generosity down to you, individually down to you. So thank you very much, Connor. Connor has donated 5 memberships to the channel. One to David Hooper, one to Edward Brooks, one to Andy Barr, one to Marcel Attevelt, and one to Johnny Crow. It is pretty much random where they go, but I very much appreciate that, Connor. Thank you. Our opening match is not involving Butch, even though we zoomed in on him. It is Pretty Deadly versus Sheamus and Ridge Holland as they look to get revenge for what happened last week. Brad says, hello all. Welcome, Brad. Venom. Venom says, every time I don't see Johnny on Raw, I cry myself to sleep the next night. Well, Venom, you need something more important in your life, because if you really cry because you don't see Johnny Gargano, that tells me you really need something else to focus on, and that maybe wrestling isn't for you if you attach this much importance to it. Gotta be honest. Eric says, Tom, what time is it? You don't have a clock? I reckon you don't need me for that. Dylan says, Tom, given both the strikes are currently going on, will this impact WWE with the writers and creative? We discussed this a little bit earlier. Writers, creative, in fact wrestlers as well. The WWE, particularly under Vince McMahon, they really do not like the concept of unionization. And given the fact that wrestlers, creative, all of that is still under contracts which has them as independent contractors, the WWE does potentially have the ability to say, oh, you're unionized, get out. There will be no impact from any strike on the WWE. Connor says, got to help out and support my main man. Thank you very kindly. Peach says, quite rightly, don't forget to thank Connor for your membership, which is absolutely fair. Thank you very much for that reminder, Peter. Callie celebrating Fight Night. And Brad says, I want to see the channel grow and make it so Tom can go full time. Would be absolutely lovely. And definitely something I'm hoping to get to one day. I think it'll be a while before we get to that day, but it'll be a very good day when we eventually do. My hope is that one day I'll be able to essentially go full time here, cut down to maybe 15, 20 hours a week on multiple different channels, all of which have their own income, with channels sort of funding each other as they go, and that I'll be able to ostensibly, based on that 15-20 hours, retire at 40. I'm 35 now, so I've got 5 years to basically kick that into gear. I've been paying my corporation tax over the last couple of weeks because it's come round again, so I can see exactly the numbers that I've made this year, and certainly it's not enough to be doing that, but it is enough to fund itself. Whereas this is a welcome addition to my already adequate income for the fact that I live alone, and maybe not quite adequate when you consider I'm also trying to invest in 2 young lives. But, you know, we do what we can. We do what we can. It will be eventually, and I'm confident of that. Dylan says, okay, good. Thanks for letting me know. No worries, Dylan. By all means, ask the questions. Peter Roberts says, hey, Tom, how are you doing? Doing good, thank you, Peter. How are you? And Peter Englefield says, Agreed, Peter. Whatever that is. Eric says, why does the WWE treat the wrestlers like independent contractors, not actual employees? For several reasons. Firstly, they can get away with paying them less. They can get away with not paying for their health care. And they can get away with firing them for pretty much any infraction. It's just easier on the company and a lot harder on the wrestlers. Mustafa says, I keep coming in late today. No worries, mate. I don't really worry too much about early, late and all that jazz. You're here, and I appreciate you. Peter Roberts says, Brian Alvarez is a huge Cody Rhodes fan. Does not surprise me. Pretty Deadly are on their way out. Pretty Deadly have had a pretty substantial push recently. They really have been key to everything going forwards since the draft, particularly in keeping Austin Theory in the public eye, while Austin Theory himself has actually been paying a little less attention overall to the WWE. We'll see how that one plays out. The match is Brawling Brutes, in this case Sheamus and Ridge Holland, versus Pretty Deadly. Who do you think is going to be picking up the win here? I'd imagine Austin Theory is going to be involved somehow, because the only reason that Austin Theory technically still has that championship is Pretty Deadly. So, while Pretty Deadly are definitely in the shot, because of that Austin Theory, I'm going to give it to the Brawling Brutes, with the intention of making you think that Butch will be picking up the win later when he will not. Kelly says, I didn't know they were that disposable. That's an interesting way of saying that. That disposable. Ooh. Sean says, Austin Theory has been champion since the Survivor Series last year. I believe his reign has been lackluster. It's not unfair. It's not unfair. Megan is here saying hello. Hello, Megan. Hector says, evening, Tom. Do you watch any Stardom? If so, do you know who Maria May is? I believe she's from England as well. I do. I've been on her Twitch channel a few times. She's pretty good. Sean says, with their appearances in NXT, is it possible Damien Priest cashes in on Mello? No. Hector says, sadly, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Charlotte, considering past history. Fair. That's regards the match in question. Bayley says, Dexter Lumis struggles in stories because he has no mic skills. Literally. Pretty much. Wiggly says, why is Asuka being treated as an afterthought, even though she's the champion? Because at the moment, the real push is for a match between Bianca Belair and Charlotte. Hector says, call me crazy, but put Dexter Lumis with Karrion Kross. Their characters aren't too far off. Maybe being in a stable could benefit Karrion and Scarlett. Not unfair. Not unfair. There was talk about Karrion Kross and Bray Wyatt way back when. Sean says, do you see Dominic Mysterio defeating Wesley for the North American title? I don't, but stranger things have happened. Leon thinks Pretty Deadly is going to be picking up the win. Connor says, I'm not a fan of Pretty Deadly, to be honest. I find them really annoying. I do as well, but that's why I like them. They have iconic energy for me, in that they're very easy to detest. Eric says, do you think we see Theory on commentary for the four-way? No, personally I don't. Austin Theory has not really done a lot on the mic recently. They're sort of keeping in the background a little bit. I don't think they have the highest of faith in him anymore. Joey says, hey Tom, what's going on with SmackDown right now? Wrestling. There is currently a tag team match. Peter thinks Austin Theory is a future WWE World Champion. And Brad says, I thought WWE employees were full-time. Depends what you mean by full-time. Oh, full-time employees with benefits unlike the wrestlers. Some of them are, some of them are not. Megan says, how happy at WWE right now that pretty much none of the roster are in SAG-AFTRA? Very. Very happy indeed. It will have no impact on them, and they've already made it clear, a bit of union busting practice, that if anyone does decide to go on strike, they will not have a job to come back to. Leon's a pretty big fan of Pretty Deadly. Callie says, Tom, when the wrestlers were in Cardiff, I took my sons in McDonald's drive-thru. I looked to my right and seen Elton Prince sat in there, shocked to say the least, as they all said it wasn't him. They were wrong. Gomar says, if you found them annoying, it seems like they're doing great at their job. I know what you mean, Brad. I know what you mean. Bayley says, John Cena's verbal takedown of Austin Theory from last year proved true. It really did. John Cena has ended a lot of careers of his words. Joey says, do you think Brian Pillman Jr. will join WWE? I do not. There's very little interest in him from the WWE. There's reasons for it. The match continues. Ridge Holland overpowering both members of Pretty Deadly there and tagging in Sheamus, with of course the Powerhouse, who's going to do quite a lot of damage. I do like the Pretty Deadly are rocking the SmackDown blue now. Oh, there is definitely some outside shenanigans happening. There's going to be a beatdown. I mean, the crowd are behind it, so why wouldn't you? Leon said I don't really see anything in Theory. Only really see him as a mid-carder, and that's really it. I see WWE giving him the big show push. Well, in every possible way forgettable. Connor says, only thing I like about this match is that it's all wrestlers in it at the UK Ireland-based Big Up Us. Always fair. Always fair. As Irish myself and British, I completely get it. Sean says, do you know if Eric Young has left WWE? Peter Insider said he was spotted at Detroit Airport. They believe he'll be Scott D'Amore's partner at Slammiversary. I don't know that he has left per se. He may have just requested special dispensation. But it's also possible that working backstage isn't really for him, and he's been very much held there for quite a while now because other things have not really come together. There was an intention to bring back Sanity, but it looks like they just weren't able to get Killian Dane. Peter says, seen The Rock having a tweet battle with Grayson. The Rock is doing favours for people even when he's not wrestling them. Venom says, Bray versus Brock would be amazing. Do you think we could get it anytime soon? Nope. Joey says, apparently, this is as regards Eric Young, who spotted training at the PC along with a Stardom wrestler. Is this as regards Eric Young? Can you clarify that for me, please, Joey? I don't quite understand. Dylan says, it sucks if anyone goes on strike, they're immediately fired. Why do they fire them? To stop them from going on strike. That's why they're independent contractors. The WWE has engaged in union busting practices for decades now. They simply do not want to let anyone have control over their own destiny in that way. Now, I know obviously if you're not a union fan, you likely think my opinion there is quite cynical, but I am a union guy. I do believe a wrestling union is necessary to protect the rights of wrestlers. I also think, unfortunately, the person who was helming the concept of a union has in many ways ruined that as a possibility. Yeah. Gotcha, Joey. Appreciate that clarification. Connor says, bringing back Sanity. Who came up with that idea? That is insanity. Eric says, speaking of Sanity, where has Nikki Cross been? Back to school, mate. She went back to school. Which is pretty cool, I feel. Hector says, what are your thoughts on WWE using NXT as a way to introduce the fans to Gable Steveson? I think it needed to happen eventually because they seem to keep forgetting he exists. More importantly, he seems to keep forgetting that they exist. Gable Steveson has not exactly endeared himself to WWE fans or WWE officials backstage by simply not turning up when requested. There are a lot of issues there. A lot of issues. Correct, Connor. She got her master's and graduated, as it were. Blue says Utami was at the training centre. Had photos of Iyo, Nat and Shayna. Also, please know who Utami is, Tom. Unfortunately, Blue, I do not. Unfortunately not. Let me know. Tell me. Tell me who Utami is. Tell me off. Tell me off for not knowing. Bayley says if WWE talent belonged to the Actors Union, the show would not be on the air tonight and the TV money stops. Yes, it does. Now, potentially, there could be a number of them who are striking and a number of them who aren't in the union and wouldn't. But the WWE have made it clear, if you're in the union, no, you're not. You never were. Just pretend otherwise. Pretty Deadly are in the Ascension now as we continue to go through our opening match. The WWE and Triple H in particular are very aware that last week they offered very little wrestling as they try and really double down on the bloodline as the big draw that they are. It's worked for them historically, and it will definitely get Jey Uso his first pay-per-view main event. No, it's not his first. It's a Hell in a Cell was the first pay-per-view main event that he had. But it will get him a big championship match at SummerSlam. Sean says, wasn't Zelina let go because of a union? Nope. Zelina was let go and then said she supports a union. She also is not actively right now a member of a union. One of many reasons I was not particularly happy with the way that she returned. Bayley says a UFC performers independent contractors as well. I'm not sure on that one. I'll need to do a bit of digging, but I'm pretty sure that's where Vince is going to want to go. Bit of an awkward electric chair there. Rich Holland waiting for the hot tag. Oh, Pretty Deadly being clever. I have not learned their individuals' names yet. Ellen Prince is a blonde one. Okay, that helps. What's the other one? Kip Wilson? Kit? Connor says, I'm going to guess Utami is a person and a wrestler. James says, did WWE actually think Gable Steveson is the next top guy at WWE, or am I missing something? The next top guy? No. They believe he has the potential to be a huge crossover star to the level of Kurt Angle. That doesn't mean he's the next top star. I'm pretty sure the next top star is Bianca Belair. Depends what you define by top. Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio, in fact, are all in that spot as well. Callie says the NXT Underground match was amazing. Eddie Thorpe is going to be big. Oof. Rich Holland just throwing people around. Interesting new whole tackle move thing. And I am going to sneeze. Yeah. 5 at once. Venom says, do you think Pete Dunne could go back to the Bruiserweight anytime soon? We keep seeing that it's reported and it keeps not happening. Wiggly said, just seeing John Cena is in the new Barbie movie, might need to come up with an excuse to go watch it. I am not going to come up with an excuse. Barbie has no place in my heart personally, but I know plenty of people who are excited by the prospect and I will not be going with them. John said, did you see the report that Peter Insider put out as to why Carlito didn't debut at the Madison Square Garden show? Yes, I referred to that as spoiler warning. Here's my concern. Peter Insider reported that Carlito was going to be at Madison Square Garden. Peter Insider then reported that Carlito was not going to be at Madison Square Garden. PW Insider then reported why Carlito was not, as they reported, at Madison Square Garden. It sure sounds like Peter Insider is explaining why Peter Insider were not wrong and that Carlito definitely was going to be there and that stop saying that they're wrong. It's cynical. I'm not really supportive of it. Thank you, Callie. Appreciate that. Kit Wilson. Thank you. James says, if you're in the UFC, you can't fight anywhere else unless Dana says so. The UFC has it as a joint promotion so they make money. That's not going to be the case for much longer because Dana White is not going to have the final say. The final say will go to people above him, including Vince McMahon. Turnbuckle exposed. Rich Holland ran into it. Looks like an opportunity here for Pretty Deadly to pick up the win. Megan says, from what I can find, UFC competitors are independent contractors as well. Thank you, Megan. I appreciate that. That is a win for Pretty Deadly. Rich Holland's left shoulder was not on the mat. He was holding his neck. So often that happens. But it's a win for Pretty Deadly in the dodgiest of possible ways. They are building them up relatively well. They're getting a pretty strong push as a tag team, which is interesting because tag team wrestling not really pushed that hard by Triple H recently. Wiggly says, will Sheamus ever be WWE or World Heavyweight Champion again? No. No, that time has passed. Rich Holland seems to have a cut on his arm as well, interestingly. So we are half hour into the show. We've had an opening promo for the women. We have had a tag team match. So it's nice to see some tag teams involved. And now we're getting a recap of last week between Edge and Grayson Waller. The concept of the whole independent contractors gives the company pretty much full control over an employee. I do not support that. However, it is something that happens. Dylan says, Tom, given WWE and UFC are now merged, could we see WWE wrestlers in UFC and vice versa? Yes, and we will. And Gomar says, Peter Insider's credibility has been pretty shaky recently. We do like to ask at this point about a rating for the match that you saw. I do think, out of 10, I would give that one a 7. I think it was pretty hard hitting. The crowd was certainly into it, and I think it did a good job helping Rich Holland and Pretty Deadly with their overall development. So please let me know in the chat as we speak what you made of that match. Peter gives the match an 8. Brad gives the match an 8 as well. Wiggly much lower on a 5. Gomar gives the match a 7. Leon gives the match an 8. Bayley gives the match a 6. Joey says Eric Young came back to not do any in-ring stuff and go back to Impact. Eric Young came back to work backstage. From what I can tell, not the biggest fan of it. Gomar says Pretty Deadly been doing well. They have indeed. Kathy Kelly is backstage at SmackDown, wearing SmackDown colours. I respect it. And he's interviewing Grayson Waller after his loss to Edge last week. Wiggly gives the Bianca promo a 4. Connor says it gets a 4 from me. I had very little interest in it. Callie gives it a 7. Wiggly says I'm a harsh marker, and if it's 6 and above is good. So you're saying the match was not good. Megan says I'd say 7. There still seems an element of nerves from Pretty Deadly for me. I don't think that's unfair. I definitely think that's true of the way that they wrestle, but I also think they're in the ring with people that they don't really know too well at the moment. They've not really had time to build that chemistry, so I can't really blame them. Jack Roman gives it a 7.5. Venom gives it a 5. Joey says, do you think Vince kept him away from the ring since he's in his 40s? No, it wasn't Vince. It happened under Triple H primarily. And it was a case that there was an interest in bringing back Sanity. But even then, he only ever worked backstage. Pardon me. Grayson Waller mocking The Rock there, which is clever. Get the rub from the big names. Guy knows what he's doing. Oh, next up, we're talking Tribal Court Chaos, which I'd imagine is another recap. Joey says I'll give it a 6 for the Bianca segment. Bianca segment getting a little bit of love there as well. So we have ourselves another commercial break, and then we'll see some Solo Sikoa. I would imagine what we're going to see is Jey Uso and Solo Sikoa making full-time enemies of themselves. Jey needs to eliminate Solo if he's to get a one-on-one chance against Roman. Callie says Grayson just mentioned The Rock. He did indeed. Sean says your thoughts on Becky versus Zoe on Raw. Becky also revealed why the match almost didn't happen. The match was alright. I enjoyed it. Considering it wasn't supposed to be happening according to reports, I'm very happy with it. Megan says exactly, giving the new guys the benefit of the doubt while they take some time to settle into the new roster they're working with. I still remember a CM Punk Rey Mysterio match which was terrible. Genuinely awful. The two had no chemistry. A couple of years later they had a full-on feud and the matches are great. Sometimes it just takes time. Wiggly says 60%, 6 out of 10 is a 2-1 in academic terms, so for me 6 and above is good. 70% is the first, so very good, and 80% and above is excellent. Gomar says I'd like to see a Grayson Waller and Austin Theory feud. I don't think you're going to get it. It would be heel versus heel, and right now, I just don't think the WWE are really going to be pushing that. Butch certainly has potential. I do feel Austin Theory versus Butch is good for everyone involved. I also think it's very possible that Sheamus would step aside for Butch. I genuinely think that's something that would happen backstage. They'd have a conversation and Sheamus would step aside. He'd also step aside for Ridge Holland, as in fact he did on several occasions in that match, to make Ridge Holland look good, even though Ridge did take the pin. AJ Styles, though, just cannot be ignored. Just cannot be ignored. Eric says, I feel like Kathy is the best interviewer commentator in WWE. I agree. Connor says, Tom, where do you fall on one of the best biscuits ever, the chocolate hobnob? It's crumbly and I like it, but I like it with a layer of caramel. Like a caramel digestive. That's one of my favourites. James says, I feel like Roman will call Solo the next tribal chief. Yeah. Whether he likes it or not. Yeah. Peter says, The Rock versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40. No, but I'm sure around September time, Dave Meltzer will start reporting it's happening. And then around November time, Dave Meltzer will report that it's never going to happen. I don't know why you're talking about it. Blue says, Tom, when's the last time you went to a WWE event? 2019. Actually, no. NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool 2020 in January. Was a while back. All In will be my next wrestling event. Hello, Bismo. How are you? Good to see you, mate. Venom says, I think the hard thing for WWE is if he does go back to Pete Dunne, they have to find a way to write him out of the Brawling Brutes. They absolutely do not. I disagree on that one. And Eric says, they don't want none. They don't want none. They don't want none. So you're saying is they want some. Sean says, I've seen fans saying Austin should turn face because it would refresh his character. The fans who are saying that don't like him anyway, so they won't cheer for him when you're supposed to. Wheeler says, Tom, do you like cats? Depends what kind of cat. I like leopards. I like leopards. I'm a bit more of a dog person. Mostly because I just like to... I don't want to be staff. You know? I don't want to be there to look after said cat. Also, I didn't have to do a great job last time my sister was on holiday. The cat died. Not great. Not great. What I mean, Venom, is that he doesn't need to leave Brawling Brutes. Why would a name change result in that? That makes no sense. Clyde says, back again to hit the like button and show my continued support. Cheers, Tom. Cheers, Clyde. Cheers, Clyde. Connor says, I can confirm if AJ was standing in front of me, I would in fact want none. Yes, but they're saying that they don't want none. So they do want some. They do want some. It's like when Americans say, I could care less. But the British say, I couldn't care less. Like, it's nice to know that you care more than we do. Like, it's lovely. Joe, I'm not going to take your dog. Very strange thing to say. Dylan says, Tom, will WWE ever come to Ireland for any pay-per-views? Yeah. Joey says, I can't watch SmackDown since I'm not home. Can you keep me up to date? I mean, isn't that what we do here? I'm doing the best I can, mate. Wiggly says, I got chased by my neighbour's Irish setter dog because it wanted to play fetch with me, and you were being fetched. It is indeed a recap segment for the Bloodline. This happens way too much now. It's a recap from Money in the Bank, Jey Uso pinning Roman Reigns, and the subsequent meltdown. Blue says, on the main roster, who would you say is championed most by Triple H and by Vince? The most obvious ones, and the biggest early comparison, is Rhea Ripley for Triple H, Damian Priest for Vince. Damian Priest is a Vince McMahon project, and a very successful one at that. As we get to about a third of the way through the show, I do think this is a great time to say to people, if you have just joined us, or if you haven't yet done so, please consider hitting the like button. The like button goes a long way to helping the growth of the channel. We are also at the moment quite focused on our chat rate, which is almost a silly little thing, or seemingly at times, but it does have a massive impact on the growth of the channel. The more we have people talking, the higher the chat rate. Chat rate is based on how many comments are made every minute or so. When you have a really high chat rate, you also have a massive boost in viewership, which is why we do a number of different things to try and keep the chat flowing, keep the chat talking. Even if you're just talking amongst yourselves and just having your own conversations, you are helping this channel grow. Of course, if you're not a subscriber, please also consider hitting subscribe. The recap does include the 40 minutes from last week as well, because God knows we need to see all of that again. Connor says that's a good point, they need to sort out their wording. So confusing. Bayley says, I was reading online that SAG-AFTRA doesn't consider WWE as acting, so it's not a part of the strike order. That's correct. The only logical choice for wrestlers is SAG-AFTRA, but we are where we are. Leon says, I really wish they would stop with these recaps. It wastes TV time. Yes, it does. They could use this time to get other people over, but they decided against it. Peter says, I'm confused as to the show we are watching. We're just watching a recap show, watching a cheesy clip show. Venom says, do you think Jey could dethrone Roman? Yes. Eric says, who are you most excited to see All In? Probably Daniel Bryan, to be honest. Well, Bryan Danielson, I should say. Though if Jay White's there, I've seen Jay White in person once before. Very excited to do so again. I'll see you later, Peter. Thank you for dropping in. Peter says, like math and maths. Yeah, that's mostly like, I don't know who's in the right and who's in the wrong there. The argument is that mathematics is a plural, but mathematics is also a singular, which I actually kind of get. Wiggly says, I'm going to say it, SmackDown needs to be 3 hours. No. Just no. How dare you? That is unacceptable. I'm very upset with you. Joey says, I don't know which matches are happening since I can't watch it. None. There are no matches happening right now. There's been one match so far, and I did tell you exactly what happened with it. Venom says, I'm not sure if SummerSlam is big enough to have Roman's title reign come to an end. We can't always sit here and say only big things can happen at WrestleMania. Otherwise, SummerSlam will never be big enough for a moment like that. Connor says, they showed us this recap on Raw also. Why do they keep doing this? Because the Bloodline is a draw. They know that when the Bloodline is on TV, people tune in. That's the reason. Eric says, Tom, do you think the wise man turns on Roman at 40? No. Blue says, got tickets to a WWE event for the first time since WrestleMania 21. We decided on a house show seemed the most fun. Joey says they act like everyone forgot about the bloodline stuff. This is because casual viewers may miss a show or two and they want them to stay caught up. It doesn't drive viewers away, but it keeps viewers who might go without it. Leon is most excited to see Adam Cole live. Oh, of course, yes. Fair, Eric. Dylan says SummerSlam is one of the big four. He can lose it there and it can still be big. He could lose it anywhere and the moment would be big. Wouldn't really matter what event it was on. Venom says, would like it if that happens. I thought there were talks on making SmackDown 3 hours. What happened? Just curious. There were not talks on making SmackDown 3 hours. That's what happened. Nothing. Wiggly says, is the infamous green shirt man at WWE events an employee? Not to my knowledge, no. We've gone backstage to Charlotte. Adam Pearce having a chat with her. She seems to be leaving. We'll see if that's actually happening. Connor says, Bloodline is a draw, but I don't see any drawing. If they want to draw, that's when they use Dexter. But I don't think you're allowed to badumts yourself, but you have. So I don't know how I feel about it. Bayley and Iyo have popped up backstage. The women seem to be getting a lot more time this week than they did last week. I'm very happy about that. Bayley and Iyo both dressed to wrestle. Charlotte Flair no longer leaving. So our main event's going to be real overbooked. And honestly, I don't hate it. Don't hate it at all. Gomar says the recaps get annoying when they recap stuff from 2 or 3 weeks ago. I agree. Venom says, I think if they don't think Jey wins, there's still a story waiting to be told between Solo and Roman. There is a story waiting to be told between Solo and Roman. Doesn't really matter if he wins or not. Next up, Zelina Vega versus Bayley. We have 2 women's matches tonight. What a rarity. It's like Triple H has suddenly remembered that there are women. Jack says, Tom, yes, Jey can beat Roman at SummerSlam, but do you think he will? Said multiple times now? Yes. Dylan says, Tom, I hope to God Disney doesn't pick up WWE after Peacock's deal is finished. I don't believe Disney are interested in that particularly. Connor says, in my 21 years of life, I've never shown the rule which says I can't badumts myself, so I'm going to continue. Well, how dare you? How dare you? Next week, SmackDown will be on FS1, which means less viewership overall. They're trying to hype up the show with a few matches advertised, but we'll see how that one plays out. Joe says, Tom, is Roman going to lose at SummerSlam? Guys, you need to stop asking me the same question in different ways. I've answered it several times. I'm not going to keep repeating myself. Joey says, I think AJ Styles will face Fury at SummerSlam since he's in a fatal 4-way match. Based on the competitors there now, I do think Butch has a good shot of having that opportunity, but we'll see how it plays out because, I mean, AJ Styles is right there. He's right there. Why would you ignore AJ when he's right there? Connor says, you'd hope Triple H would remember that women exist since his wife invented women. That's true. That's a very fair point. She literally invented women. Like, I don't know if you know this, but before Stephanie, there were no women's wrestlers. There were no women's Royal Rumbles. There were no women's Money in the Banks. There were no women. Let's all just, bend the knee. Leon also thinks AJ is winning. Next up after the break, we're going to have Zelina Vega versus Bayley. Of course, Zelina Vega will not be involved later on in the night, though Bayley and Iyo Sky may be when it comes to the main event. Between Zelina Vega and Bayley, who do you think is picking up the win in this next match? Eric says, do you know why they moved SmackDown to FS1? It'll be some sort of counter programming, which I'm not aware of because I live in the UK. Joey really into the Pete Dunne of it all. If Pete Dunne did return, the exact amount of changes would be 0. Literally the only thing that changed would be the name. It would have no impact whatsoever on his character or his personality as he's playing it out now, and would have no impact on his chances of winning the match. That's all there is really to it. There's quite a lot of situations where people really want something to happen when that something would have no impact whatsoever on anything. So that name is really that important. A rose by any other name would not smell as sweet. What can we do? Ooh, BT Sport advertising UFC in the UK. We have just over an hour left of SmackDown. We have ourselves the Fatal 4-Way to determine the United States Championship challenger. Not sure what's going to be the draw segment in this point in time, to be honest. I'd imagine the women are going to main event, so maybe Jey Uso is our draw segment. Logically, we've got 4 matches there, and that's how much Triple H usually likes on a SmackDown. I'd stick with that. I'd definitely stick with that. Leon says, I just want the name back. I don't mind the gimmick. Why, Leon? Like, genuine question. Why is the name so important? Like, I don't really understand from your point of view. Venom says the Pete Dunne character wouldn't work in Brawling Brutes. Again, you've said this already, and I've said it's completely not true. The Pete Dunne character is very, very similar to the Butch character. Very similar indeed. So what he would do is change his name. Nothing else would change. Bayley says Zelina is favoured because 2023 Bayley gets booked like The Miz by choice. Bayley gets booked like The Miz by choice. Joe says, Tom, could you see Stephanie coming back? Forever is a very long time and Shane came back after all. Dylan says it wasn't Adam and Eve, it was Adam and Stephanie McMahon. Yeah, I mean, come on, May. I mean, you know your history. Have you never read the Bible, according to Stephanie McMahon? The WWE Bible, the Weeble, the Weeble and Bob. Have you never read the Weeble and Bob? We went on a journey there. Bayley holding a considerable strand of Shotzi's hair. Logically, I would expect Shotzi then to get involved in this match. And then next week we have a tag match. Sean says Shane came back then tore his quad. Well, you can't have everything, mate, can you? Sometimes your knees and your legs and your quads and your thighs, they just don't work. Well, what's the attitude, Joey? Attitude error? What are we talking about? Connor says, if Roman is a tribal chief because he's the best male wrestler in the family, does that make Tamina the tribal queen as she's the best female wrestler in the family? There is already a tribal queen. She is, of course, married to the tribal chief. Venom thinks the name Butch is just stupid. I got used to it. I've got used to it. I'm not offended by it. Gordy says next week's SmackDown is on FS1 because the Women's Soccer World Cup will be airing on Fox. Thank you, Gordy. Appreciate that. Airwolf says, has anyone asked the weekly Randy question? Not as of yet. Not as of yet. Peter, you're entitled to work your own queue however you would like. It's good to sometimes have these debates. I just want to point that out. We are live. Zelina Vega pinning opportunity of Bayley. Again, Joey, we can have these opinions and we can have these debates. Like, if you get offended by it, let me know. And we'll work out what's happening. But I don't see any issue with the name Butch. I don't understand why it's such a sticking point for people. Like, people are furious at the fact that someone has a name. People have names. It's a thing that happens. Connor says, if no one has, I guess I will take the honour. When is Randy returning, Tom? Please exact date, please, if you will. Funnily enough, on Tuesday I actually released a new video on Randy Orton, which has been watched by quite a few people and which I may put some advertising behind. No, I wasn't referring to you there, Peter. I appreciate what you're saying. Debate is healthy, Airwolf. You're absolutely right. Zelina trying to be a bit heelish there with attacking a weapon. Sean says, your thoughts on Trinity and Deonna main eventing Impact's pay-per-view. It's pretty cool. Impact really trying to take advantage of the name Trinity. Not sure how that will work long term. And I'm not sure how this match will work long term because this match is over. Bayley has beaten Zelina Vega in 2 minutes. I was excited to get 2 women's matches. What was the goddamn point? Iyo Sky's opened the briefcase, showing it to be empty. There is no contract in that briefcase. Iyo just screwed up massively. Bayley playing air guitar on a strand of hair. Seen it all. Seen it all. Oh, Shotzi's appearing on the screen. Megan says, that was quick. Not sure it's even worth scoring it. I'm not sure on that one myself, really. I think the most I can honestly give it is a 2. Now, what's going on with Shotzi here? There's a whole backstage thing happening. He's filmed a whole video. She was that annoyed. Is she going to shave her own head, or is this hair versus hair for SummerSlam? Because if it is, it's going to be hair versus hair for SmackDown. That ain't making SummerSlam. Shotzi's not making the SummerSlam main card. Okay, but keep dropping the word control. Okay, so it won't be hair versus hair. She's shaving her hair already. Right, so to be clear, her new character is I'm crazy. How unique. Joey says, I hate these 2-minute women's matches. The booking is terrible. Dylan says, Triple H just doesn't know how to write women's wrestling. I have no issue with the writing per se. I just don't think they give them time. They're doing okay at the moment with the writing. There's quite a few people high up on the SmackDown women's roster. There's a rebirth of Shotzi happening as we speak, and it's different, but it's not terrible. Connor says they've taken Liv's character to Shotzi. Ah, yeah, Liv was crazy, wasn't she? Liv was crazy. No Venom, they did not force her to do that. Bayley gives it a 3 out of 10. Jey Uso is indeed going to be our draw segment. I imagine we're about to get commercial break, but Jey Uso is on the way down to the ring, and he is, if you'll forgive the pun, solo. Leon says, I guess we have another Nikki Cross crazy character. I really don't like those characters. Nor I. A crazy character is just no fun for me. It tells me you have no idea what actual personality they're supposed to have. James says 1, 2, 3 seems fair. Well, we got a 3 count, so maybe that justifies a 3. I ain't behind it. I'm not behind it. Venom says, do you think it'll be hair versus hair? How can it be? Shots is already bald. Like, there's no way it can be hair versus hair. One of them doesn't have any hair to lose. Eric says, I feel like Shotzi has a little Harley Quinn in her. I don't. I think they've just made her crazy. Connor says, you know, don't go near Shotzi. She's crazy. Who knows what she'll do? Maybe she'll wrestle a match. Ooh, spooky. Basically, Connor, what you've also done there is described Bray Wyatt and his character. Don't go near Bray Wyatt. He's crazy. You never know what he's going to do. Oh, he's going to wrestle a wrestling match. Crazy. Wiggly says, I love how Bayley and Iyo looked terrified. Good acting overall. Like unhinged, as it were. And Sean said, didn't Mickie James have a crazy character? She was like the inaugural crazy character. Like, she had personality with the crazy, though. That's the difference. James says, Shotzi's tank is going to show up to your house. I don't see that one personally. I don't see it. Stranger things, once again, have happened. You're Bray Wyatt, Connor. How very protective of you. Eric says maybe a hair versus career match. Again, don't see it. I think this ends up in just a wrestling match. Like, I'd like there to be more stakes. But ultimately, Shotzi's been a lot of back and forth. They've given her quite a bit to work with, but they give her big gaps in between. And that just means that whenever she does gain momentum, she can't keep it. She really did miss out in the absence of anything that they gave her after the Ronda Rousey feud. Venom wants to see more buried alive matches. I don't think that's PG enough for them. I think with the current PG situation, even when they do go a little bit more extreme, being buried alive is just a little bit too far. Little bit too far for them. Connor suggests hair versus tank. So Bayley could win the tank, you say? That could be interesting. Very, very different from what we have right now. Bayley in a tank. Dylan says, is this match for SummerSlam? I don't think Shotzi's making the main card for SummerSlam. Just doesn't make much sense to me. Shotzi gets attention every now and then they all move on. With the card at the moment, the amount of matches are already there for SummerSlam, I just don't see it. Venom said they did for Taker versus AJ Styles. It wasn't a Buried Alive match, it was a Boneyard match. Very different. Very different. It's not different. It's not different at all. Very, very different. Not even slightly different. And as we know, AJ Styles, who was buried alive, by the way, in that Boneyard match, he was fine. Like, he came back a month later and was like, I was buried alive, so what? Gomez says, yeah, the blood we've been seeing in some matches recently is probably the farthest they'll go. There has been quite a bit of blood, I tell you that. Connor says, Bayley saw Rusev at Mania 31 and has wanted her own since now. Now she has her chance. Bayley riding a tank down to the ring would be cool. There's absolutely no question of that. Bayley's one of those characters who could just be very cool. I don't know. There's a lot that Bayley has to offer right now to a lot of different people, and she's giving a lot back. Dylan says, is Roman versus Jey going to be a match stipulation for SummerSlam? Not to my knowledge, no. Pretty sure it's just going to be a wrestling match. You don't get a lot of stipulations for Roman. We have an early announcement for Survivor Series. If you haven't seen spoiler warning earlier today, I did report on something that may or may not be happening at Survivor Series. The WWE have been exploring their options and are intending to bring War Games back to Survivor Series once again. While Jey Uso is in the ring, we've gone backstage to AJ Styles to continue the build to the United States Championship Invitational. I'm starting to think that might main event. They are building up to two matches at the same time. They're doing a good job, and I'm not sure which is going to main event. What I do like, though, is that so far, we haven't had any impromptu matches where something has happened backstage and Adam Pearce has said, well, we've got all this space in the show because we don't book any wrestling matches. Now you'll have to wrestle tonight. Crowd showing a lot of love for Jey Uso here. Venom says, wonder if Jey takes out Solo, so it's just him and Roman at SummerSlam. So exactly as I mentioned earlier. Bayley says, a lot of what WWE did in the 90s for shock value probably won't even be allowed on TV in the future. Very true. Sean says, will we see an Iron Man match again? Haven't seen one since Seth versus Dolph for the Intercontinental Championship. You remember what happened during that match, right? That's why there's no more Iron Man matches. Megan says, AJ is part of the no-sell unaliving club, just like when Aleister Black and Rey Mysterio being fine after being yeeted off a roof during Money in the Bank. They literally came back the same week. The same week, and they were just like, yeah, sure. Got thrown off a roof, innit? Happens. They are watting Jey Uso. He's playing up to it quite nicely. He's working with that as a crowd. Still disrespectful. Hector says, I think if Cody's going to take the third match against Brock, I think he needs to hit multiple crossroads while also bleeding. I mean, that's an option. Personally, I see stipulation on that one. Connor says they cut out a comedy skit of her taking the tank to a mechanic where she gets it upgraded. They had Wacky Wave and Inflatable Tube Man to it. Then it's perfect. Like Grand Theft Auto when you drive into the garage and you get some upgrades. Get some nitrous oxide on it. Pimp my tank? I love it. Dylan says Solo is most likely going to turn on Roman at SummerSlam. He's not. Too early for Solo. Jey giving us some stakes here because it's not just about Roman. It's about the whole family. Saying a big F you to the family right now. Absolutely, Connor. You send it on. Jay's got to the Solo Sikoa of it all. He is just ripping them apart right now. The entire bloodline is on the docket. Paul Heyman is here to represent Roman Reigns. Not a surprise to anyone. That's the typical Paul Heyman situation. Jey Uso in the draw segment makes a lot of sense. It's not just Paul Heyman, Solo Sikoa with him, acting as a proxy for Roman. Hector says, if the indication is it will have War Games at Survivor Series, what would your dream women's and men's matches be? We don't know what the storylines are going to be at that time, so it depends. Solo is dripping from the beard. It's kind of awkward. I gotta say, Solo is a bona fide main eventer already. If he's challenging for world championships, no one's going to ask questions. If Roman 1 week sends him to Raw to take the championship from Seth Rollins, no one's going to ask questions. Everyone's just going to accept it. Solo's already there. Looks eager to get into the ring already. Solo is very slowly and very carefully getting in the ring to cover for Paul Heyman's entrance. Connor says, I would argue Solo Sikoa is right up there, one of the best NXT call-ups of all time. I cannot argue with that. The way that he's been elevated, fantastic. Paul Heyman hyping up the return of Roman next week. Basically doing a week on, a week off at the moment. Everything's Liv Morgan is the tribal chief. Dylan says, Tom, I hope WWE doesn't have Jimmy cost Jey the title at SummerSlam. Yeah, they won't. Jimmy is, of course, out of action for the moment. Megan says Solo may have had the best call-up in the last couple of years, certainly. I think you have to go back to Finn Balor and at least how he was intended to be booked to see better. Yeah, Sean, we discussed that one on Spoiler Warning as well. The reason Dave Meltzer reported that is because the Creeds were on NXT, despite the loser-leaves NXT match. It's difficult to read Jey Uso at the moment. Constant internal conflict. He needs conviction. Paul Heyman, of course, now also blaming Jey for the injuries to Jimmy. Connor says, Kevin Owens' call-up is still the best for me. Eric says, do you all think it's a better call-up than Shinsuke? Yeah, obviously. Shinsuke Nakamura's call-up, not that great. It took a year for him to really kick into gear. And he was just sort of there. Leon says, I'm hoping it's a great match and not one of those overbooked ref bump matches. Wasn't really a fan of the Money in the Bank tag match outside of the finish. Yeah, it was 20 boring as hell minutes. And then 5 minutes of decent action. Awkward for everyone involved. Paul Heyman now talking past Jey Uso. I suspect Paul Heyman might be taking a bump at SummerSlam. Jey wants some revenge there as well. Heyman notably always hiding behind Solo. Always hiding. The camera work even makes that more clear because you can't see all of Paul Heyman because of Solo. Sean says, one team I never see breaking up is the Usos. Me too. Paul Heyman making this real personal. Patrick Wendell says, do we count the Shield as an NXT call-up? I think that's fair to say. I still put Solo up there. Dylan, anyone could debut on the main roster after SummerSlam? Very open question. Connor says, the best thing about Shinsuke's call-up was his debut because of the violin guy. Back in the day when he was working with The Miz. Solo interrupting Paul Heyman because he wants a microphone. There was an interesting reaction from the crowd there. Eric, I don't think Jimmy interferes tonight. Jimmy Uso, to my knowledge, is not there tonight. He's selling. Solo stepping up to Jey. Now's the point at which we need to find out if Solo belongs in the ring at this level. Because he needs to be able to talk. I can hear Roman in his voice. I genuinely can. Jey struck first. Hits first and hits hardest. Leaving Paul Heyman alone in the ring with Jey Uso. Also, I'm seeing a CM Punk shirt in the crowd. Kieran says, was it Miz or was it John Cena? I know it was a Miz, but it was Miz dressed as Cena. Yes, it was. Long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Now, I did just mention I definitely see Paul Heyman taking a bump at SummerSlam. The fact that they're teasing it now does not exactly assuage my fears on that one. Bayley says Solo over Roman at WrestleMania 40. I've mentioned it before and I'm happy to mention it again. Solo Sikoa is the next tribal chief. No question. Solo Sikoa has been very clearly put above Jey and Jimmy when it comes to toughness. Very telling what's happening right now to Jey. And Paul Heyman just took a bump. Awkward bump. Not the best work he's ever done, but he just took a super kick and went to the ground. Oh, Jey's flying a suicide dive now. We're getting intense here. Is Paul Heyman about to be splashed? Because he can't seem to get up. He's just rolling around a lot. Splash the guy. Do I see a chair? I do see a chair. Why is there a chair? How intense are we going to get here? Crowd want more. Crowd want more and Heyman's right there for the taking. Connor says even though Solo is a brother of the Usos and only a cousin of Roman, Solo has more in common in ring and promo style with Roman over Jimmy and Jey. I think a large part of that is that Roman's always been the guy at the top, the singles guy. His style is less high flying than the Usos. That makes it a little more accessible. Jey has picked up the chair. Solo's back in the ring. Solo driven off. But Paul Heyman has been protected again. Solo still selling his back, but they are escaping and the segment is coming to an end. Eric says 2 years in a row Paul takes a bump at SummerSlam. Not often you see him take a bump on SmackDown, I tell you that. And he sold it hard. The fact that Roman Reigns is going to be there next week is obviously a boon to the WWE. When you're on FS1, you need all the help you can get, and Roman will provide it, I'm sure. They on FS1, they're basically just trying to make sure that they can get 1 million up. 1 million up on viewership is quite a victory on FS1. Quite a victory indeed. I'm also seeing a lot of signs in the crowd. I saw main event Jey. There's an Uso penitentiary one there. A few more signs in the crowd than there's been for a while. They are still working hard to push the 2 matches remaining. They're advertising once again Asuka versus Bianca Belair. They are confirming there. I heard Michael Cole confirm that this is going to be the main event tonight, which I think is a very good thing. There is a discussion ongoing between Bianca Belair, Adam Pearce and a referee. Bayley and Iyo Sky in the background with a briefcase. Quite liking that. Austin Theory is indeed coming down for the match. I'm guessing he might well be on commentary in the end. Sean says Seth, Xavier, Sammy, Kevin, Jimmy and Jey are all people that have beaten Roman during his reign. Quite a list, huh? Yeah, quite a list. When did Seth beat... Hang on. When did any of those beat Roman? Like, Jey, I know, pinned him. None of the rest have beaten him. Unless you mean by DQ. In which case, just awkward. Gomar liked the promo, which I get. It was a good promo. Next up, AJ Styles versus Santos Escobar versus Butch versus Grayson Waller. Big opportunity for Grayson Waller to establish himself. But honestly, outside of AJ Styles, everyone involved in this match is an up-and-comer. So it's a pretty big opportunity for everybody, to be fair. Connor says, another chair shot to the back of a Bloodline member. They need to start being better at protecting their back. It's interesting because they always have someone watching their back, and yet no one ever seems to realise what's about to happen. Leon says, Theory's reign has been very boring since WrestleMania. Part of me wishes Cena feud never happened because Cena really exposed him. Well, hopefully, that's about to change. I think AJ Styles could definitely bring out the best in him. It's SummerSlam, so I think AJ's got to be the guy. Of the 4 men involved in this match, AJ Styles, Santos Escobar, Butch, or Grayson Waller, who do you think will win the match and challenge, not Grayson Waller, and challenge Austin Theory for the United States Championship? Who do you think is the one? Thank you, Kevin. It was by DQ. Gotcha. Sean believes that Grayson Waller is going to pick up the win. It'll be Grayson Waller versus Austin Theory. Leon says AJ Styles then versus Austin Theory. Venom says you don't see many fatal 4-ways, to be honest. Not anymore. You did when they first renewed the brand split in 2016. You saw a lot of fatal 4-way, fatal 5-way, fatal 6-way, 6-pack challenges under the new system. Venom believes that 2 people could win this match and does not pick one. Connor says Cena also exposed the possibility of Mania in England, which would be sick. I believe that's how you pronounce sick. Gomar is going to say Butch. There's quite a variety here, actually. Quite a few options. I think Santos Escobar versus Austin Theory would be a lot of fun, and certainly would help to put Santos Escobar on the map. But if we're talking lackluster reign so far, then surely we need to ignite that. Austin Theory needs some bigger name opponents. In the same way that Rhea Ripley needs some bigger name opponents to ignite her championship reign so far. I thought so, Connor. I thought so. I'm hip. Like I'm down with the kids. I'm cool. The kids still say cool. The kids still say hip. Don't kids say stuff like Riz nowadays? I've got 2. I should know this stuff. Venom has gone with Escobar in the end. So we kind of have all bases covered when it comes to this next match. All bases covered is not a bad place to be. We're coming up to 2/3 of the way through SmackDown. Honestly, it's not been bad at all. I mean, the opening promo was okay, really set the tone for where we were, even though it got a lot better when Charlotte was involved in it. The opening match was solid fare. We saw further development opportunities for Rich Holland, for Pretty Deadly. We then had the women's match, which was short and a real down point because I just wish they'd got 2 more minutes. Just a little bit more would have been great. Jey Uso's promo work there with Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman taking the bump and Solo Sikoa. Quality stuff there. Did help develop the Bloodline storyline. It means that in the next 40 minutes we have the Fatal 4-Way and we are main evented by a Women's Championship match. Pretty good places to be, if you ask me. I think this particular episode of SmackDown is looking a lot better than last week. A lot better indeed. Connor says, we do in fact say Riz, and don't you worry Tom, you're Bear Riz. Bear, as in it's exposed? Is it low? Is that what you're saying? Does that abbreviate as well into Briz? Is that how it works? I'm 35, I don't think I bear anything. I hope not. Leon says SmackDown is so much better than Raw. It's different. It's different. I think Raw, with the extra time to fill, is trying to push an extra variety of people. And that has its own set of challenges. I've just realised I'm here saying that AJ Styles is going to win. Karrion Kross is just going to attack him, isn't he? Butch with the Jobbers entrance. Lovely. Okay, Connor. Then says Bianca not allowed to use a hair whip that much, she barely uses it. It really fucking hurts. Like, I can't explain. Like, anyone I've spoken to, and there's a very limited amount of people who've taken it, anyone I've spoken to who's ever wrestled Bianca says that more often than not they refuse to take it on the grounds that it really fucking hurts. Which I think is fair. She's perfectly permitted to use it. It's just that most of the people she wrestles really don't want it. Yeah, I'm aware of that. Riz and Game are the same thing. Considering just how attractive my partner is, I definitely have that Briz. Kieran says it cuts you. It really does. And Gomez says, did you not see Sasha's scar when she took it? Not a scar. Healed pretty well. But certainly a gash and a half. Connor says, sounds like, Tom, I need to teach you the nowadays lingo. Do it. Connor, do it. Launch into it right now. Tell me what's cool now. Make me hip. Make me so hip I'm basically square. Make me so hip I got 2 hips and one of them needs replacing. I'm 35. My knees are 35. It shows. So Grayson Waller taking an early chance to throw a punch. Already arguing with Austin Theory, which is dumb. Leaving a big opportunity for Butch. Of course, the Fatal 4-Way is no DQ, so Austin Theory can just get involved if he'd like. This leaves Escobar and AJ Styles in the ring to have a mini-match of their own. I can't just say Santos Escobar versus AJ Styles shouldn't be just a mini-match. It should be a big-ass match. Venom says it should be a DQ if she uses it like a kendo stick. Nope. The kendo stick is considered an illegal weapon. Hair is not an illegal weapon. We have swapped over, and once again we have a mini-match incoming. Butch versus AJ Styles this time. AJ Styles being the workhorse on this one. Austin Theory putting himself over at ringside. If he's going to be on commentary, he needs to put over the people in the match. He should be talking about who he doesn't want to face. And celebrating the athleticism in the ring in front of him. In fact, Austin Theory's not talking much at all. Grayson Waller with a very nice trip there. And a double pin. That was clever. That was very clever. I like that. I like that a lot. Grayson Waller's immediately been cleaned out again. That seems to be what's going to happen a lot. Lost to old folk. Lovely, Connor. I'm lost to the old folk. Oh, Escobar just kneed AJ Styles in the head. You may note the ref immediately checked on AJ Styles, grabbing his hand. Just waiting for a little squeeze to say I'm okay. AJ Styles genuinely just got kneed in the head. Escobar cleared the both of them. Instead of a crossbody, he just launched himself past them. And that was a flailing leg. That was a risk. Styles has rolled to the side. You can see that's not his usual selling face. He's struggling a little bit there. Escobar and Grayson Waller now working. Workhorse back in play. Back in spot. Back style. Back in style there. Grayson Waller with a leapfrog over AJ Styles. Oh, I love it. I love a shotgun German. Gomez says Bianca's hair might as well be considered as a weapon. Might as well be. It's not the same as legal using. Because it is. Perfectly legal. Perfectly legal. Gomez says, to be fair, I would not enjoy being kneed in the back of the head either. I respect it. I respect it. Venom Mella versus Ricochet has already happened. I suggest you look it up because it was. We've gone to commercial break. So far, this Fatal 4-Way is delivering. Very fast tempo, very fast pace. Gomez says, lost to the old folk must hurt more than the shot from Bianca's Belair. Bianca's hair. Not really, because I'm 35. I'm not a young man anymore. I'm just a man. I do think every now and then I sort of lean backwards into what I used to be. And I think to myself, when did I become so confident that I'm just a man now? Because when you're, early 20s, late teens, you're like, when is it going to come together? When am I going to feel like I can do this? When am I going to feel confident that I have confidence and authority and that I can pay my taxes and I'm not worried about owning a home and maintaining it or anything like that? Well, I've been doing that for a long time, and every now and then I look back at my early 20s and I'm like, what was I so worried about? I just, you just do it. You just sort of do it. It's very strange. Had a moment a couple of days ago with my kids. For those of you who don't know, I'm a stepdad. I'm not like a biological dad. Had a moment recently thinking that I'm 35, I live alone, and I have no children. So essentially the money that I have, I can spend, which is lovely. I also can't drive because of a certain amount of brain damage. Happened when I was 12, a car crash. So I don't have to pay any expenditure for a car either. So I'm pretty comfortable. And I just had a moment of like, yeah, life's pretty good. I'm going to keep saving because at the moment, buying a house is getting impossible. But once I get there, I'll get there. Connor says, imagine being 35. How dare you? Goma says, I'm turning 20 this year, which is cool. We have quite a variety here of people, I've got to say. Quite a variety. Megan says, I'm not an adult. I'm the person who will unironically say I need an adultier adult. I do go very Team 4-star sometimes as I need an adult and then I am an adult. Billy says, adequate transit where you live. Yeah, absolutely there is. It can be a bit finicky at times because you've got to connect at this point and connect at that point and blah, blah, blah. But the UK is very well connected. You can get a train to pretty much anywhere. And I like getting a train to pretty much anywhere. I'll sit and write. For those of you who don't know, I'm a writer. I like to write. So give me a notepad and a 4-hour train journey. I am happy. Megan says, I only have this house because my grandparents bought it and it stayed in my family. Well, fight tooth and nail to keep it because that is a commodity and a half. I wish I was lucky enough to have that, but yeah, my family historically, very poor. I think in my particular line of the family tree, I'm quite considerably the richest, which is not a great sign. Venom says, when you're full-time, will that mean spoiler warning every day? No. Spoiler warning's a news show, mate. If we do it every day, we won't have any news. Like, we accrue news over the course of the week. If we did it every single day, it'd be 10-minute shows. Oh, Eric, happy birthday for tomorrow. Venom turns 23 in November. I tell you, it's so confusing. Everyone has birthdays like every year. How do you keep track of that? Like every year. Sean says, would you rather travel by train or fly by plane? Depends where I'm going. Like, given the option, if I'm in the UK, I'll take the train. But I like travelling abroad as well. I want to go back to Venice at some point. I really enjoyed that. Need a plane for that. Megan says they bought it in the 1940s, so yeah, that'll be some cheap times. I still don't feel like we're getting a lot from Austin Theory here. Pretty sure Grayson Waller did just get clocked in the face. Put himself into a very awkward position for AJ there. Again, the tempo of this match is incredible. Ooh. Okay, seriously, can we stop hitting AJ Styles in the back of the head? Like, please just stop. How do we keep doing this? Fair enough, Connor. I was not aware of that. Just speaking about my particular situation, I'm not allowed to drive because I get mini blackouts, like really small. You guys will have seen hundreds of them, I promise you. You've seen me have mini blackouts hundreds of times. In fact, I think some of you are probably fully aware of what I'm talking about. Like, genuinely, I'd imagine most of you have seen them, and some of you will have spotted it. But yeah, I do have mini blackouts. And this is just a result of a car accident when I was 12. On a motorway, we had a crash. The car overturned. I took a pretty big bump on the head, and I'd never fully recovered from it. If I have a mini blackout and I'm driving a car, chances are people are going to die. So even if I was allowed, no tar. Eric says, would you rather take a hair whip by Bianca or a chop from Gunter? Chop from Gunter, you survived that. Like, it might cave your chest in, and your heart might break, but broken. Kieran, I would not be permitted to have a self-driving car either, because for a self-driving car you still need a license just in case there is any sort of fault. Are we about to get a sunset flip tower doom? Sunset flip tower doom. Austin Theory selling the reaction to that. I quite like that. Well done. Now just actually talk about him. Megan says, houses in my street, more of a wide path with houses, don't come up for sale often, and when they do, they aren't on sale for long. Nowhere's on sale for long anymore. In Blackpool, there's quite a few houses for sale, but I don't want any of those. I don't think I need to explain further. Megan said, I did try and learn to drive. My anxiety and panic attacks were, nope, you're not doing this. They have the provisional and now professional passenger. Me too. Connor says, most people have zero clue or Dwayne syndrome. I've had to explain it so many times. I have it done to like 1 to 1.5 sentences, down to like 1 to 1.5 sentences at this point. Fair enough. I'm not particularly familiar with it myself. I'm happy to look it up afterwards and work it out from there. But yeah, it's well done, mate. Well done. Gomel says, only time I can't drive is when I don't have my glasses because I'm nearsighted. Fair enough, gotcha. Venom says, how long until we get Tony called up? Tony Khan is already called up to AEW and is part of the planning team there. As I say, we do have quite a variety of people here, quite a variety of different personalities, ages, characters, ailments, as it were. You guys already know about my OCD, of course. Yes, I have brain damage. Oh, Butch is really getting into gear here. Grayson Waller says no, and I'm pretty sure grabbed a handful of ball there. At least one ball, possibly two. But I have my own cross to bear, as many of us do, of course. I like to try and be open with the mental side of it, but the physical side, yeah, I've taken a few bumps to the head. That's why it makes me so uncomfortable sometimes when you watch that. I know, Eric, I know. Let me have fun with people. I think Pete Dunne's nipple has escaped, Braun Strowman style. Grayson Waller has a lot of offense that's built on diving in and out of stuff. Escobar going through. I thought he was going to go over. How is this match so high tempo? Like, there is so much happening right now. This match has been fantastic. Escobar's got hold of Butch in the ring. Opportunity here. Nope. Phenomenal forearm technically to Butch, I think that was. I think this is going to be it. Unless Austin Theory wants to get involved in this somehow. Nope. Oh, that's actually quite clever. Karrion Kross is attacking the Good Brothers backstage. In the time it's taken you to think about this, AJ, you could have won the match and already made it to the back. Scarlett just hanging around on a box. I'm sorry, but she looks fucking fantastic. AJ Styles was leaving. Grayson Waller decided to get involved. Santos Escobar with a splash. I think that's it. Grayson Waller gets pinned for the second time in a week. Santos Escobar picks up the victory. Escobar will be taking on Austin Theory. Tell you what, that will be a fantastic match whenever it might be happening. Next week we have another Fatal 4-Way to determine who will actually be facing Austin Theory. I would love Escobar versus Theory. Absolutely love it. Adam Pearce now backstage having the same conversation with Asuka. Once again, you can just see Iyo Sky and Bayley in the background with that Money in the Bank briefcase. This is quite well done overall. Happy with that winner. I did not know that, Gomar. Thanks for being open about that. Connor says, really simple. I can't see out of the corner of my eyes. Both my eye muscles pulled at the same time. Would not be able to see cars next to me without turning my head, which is probably not safe. That's fair, yeah. I get that. That makes sense. Kieran says it's going to be LA Knight, I imagine. It would be a shift. Bayley says, do people in the UK still pay a TV license fee if they get the content online? Yes. If it comes from the BBC, you have to pay your license. And as someone who is literally, again, watching Dragon Ball Z and the Tournament of Power, yeah, I do. Megan says this match has been brought to us by kicks to the head. Lots of them. John says, Santos, didn't expect that. Megan says, I'm happy to give that a 9. Good pace, each man did their best. It does lose a point for all the headshots and for the distraction, feeling a bit odd. I agree with that. I'm giving the match a 9. The tempo was really high, very good pace to it. There was not a moment of wasted breath. And because of that, it did come across a bit sloppy at times. There was definitely a pretty big bump to AJ Styles' head. I think he took 2, which is awkward in every possible way. But I do think the pace was great, the tempo was great, the innovation was good, they were inventive, apart from the fact that there were just a lot of kicks to the head in there as well. Leon says, might be my favourite TV match of the year thus far, a 9. Connor says, most people definitely pay for the TV license, people would never refuse to pay it at all. You basically have access to the BBC regardless, so yes, a lot of people just don't pay it. Certainly with the amount of online stuff I have at the moment, I'm tempted to call it. The only thing I'm really using the BBC for right now is literally just watching iPlayer and Dragon Ball Z, but Doctor Who is moving to Disney Plus. So, might not need it for much longer. I just disconnect my aerial, because I literally never watch TV now. Sean says Santos will face the winner of next week's Fatal 4-Way in 2 weeks to determine the challenger for Austin Theory. I'd imagine Sheamus may well still be involved. Honestly, at this point, I'd very much go with Escobar. Pull the trigger. Give him a shot. Hell, give him the belt. Just do it. Just do it. Do it, Vince. Vince, do it. Just got a comment on my YouTube from Justin saying we need the soda can opening every time. I'm not against it. For those who didn't watch, spoiler warning, I started the show before we actually went to my face, and you know, we start with a black screen. I opened a can of Cherry Coke. It got some responses. Kieran says, my mum has a TV license, but the only TV she watches is literally EastEnders. Well, I mean, she's getting her money's worth, I guess. Connor says, I do think it might be LA Knight. That's my favourite to take the title off of Austin. If that's going to happen, I imagine it'll be a little further down the way then. Because I don't see LA Knight versus Santos personally, just because of the dynamic they have. Connor says, Tommy can't keep saying do it and not make me think of Shia LaBeouf. Well, I'm going to make it worse for you, Connor. I want you to imagine Shia in the buff. I've seen it. Don't know why. He was. You know, sometimes someone's watching a film, you sit down to watch and you're like, oh, I'll give this a... Oh, no, I don't want to watch this. Yeah. That's me to other people. It's there now, Connor. It's there now. You ain't getting away from it. It lives in your brain. Can't escape it. So we only have 25 minutes left of SmackDown. It's actually flown. I was having some difficulty. I was tempted, like very, very small amount, to potentially postpone or cancel the show tonight because I am exhausted. The family has been doing a lot this week. Like a lot. It's been a very busy time for school situation because obviously we're getting very close to the end of the school year. So we've got to factor that in. And it comes with a lot of trips and events and things. And it just means being awake. There's also a couple of birthdays, so got to decorate that. There's a lot that's been happening. And I've got to say, it's mostly not me that's been involved. It's mostly been my partner doing all the actual work. But I've tried to be as available as possible. I mean, I'm not technically the parent, so. The Street Profits are outside. I don't know why they're even there if they're not booked. And they've run into a big limo. They're waiting for someone. Is it Carlito? Is Peter inside or right? Nope. It is Bobby Lashley. That was genuinely a big pop for Bobby Lashley. What is happening here? No, but genuinely, what is okay. I don't know what's happening, but I'm very, very interested. Okay. Connor says, I do think they would do LA Knight versus Santos, as LA Knight kind of turned face in the WWE exclusive last week. Fair. We're getting there. Kieran says, next week's Fatal 4-Way, Ray, Sheamus, Cameron Grimes, and LA Knight. Oh. Now, LA Knight is the obvious choice there. They may have bumped Sheamus for LA Knight. Sheamus may have bumped himself for LA Knight. Interesting. Leon says, new Hurt Business. It wouldn't be Hurt Business without MVP, but it could be something different, something new. Connor says, Bobby, Street Profits, and Bianca as a faction would slap. Oh. For those who didn't see spoiler warning earlier, I did mention the fact that the WWE are looking to push Montez Ford and Bianca Belair as a power couple for the WWE going forwards, potentially to a point where both of them are competing for championships for many, many years to come. This might be a launching off point for Montez Ford, but also, it's not like Angelo Dawkins misses out on this one. We're getting a full rundown of the challenges for next week. We've had Cameron Grimes, we're on Sheamus as we speak now. We usually have, right before the main event, this sort of 10-minute bit where it's 2 commercial breaks and a load of backstage stuff, and then an entrance. LA Knight is on his way down. That is a big reception. Okay, let's see if he... Again, lots of signs. I don't think he's going to be doing anything for long, but the fact they're putting him in front of the crowd is telling. Leon just says, LA Knight. Yes. Crowd are very much into this. Connor says, I'd also put MVP there also, as I don't like Bobby on the mic. Megan says, Lashley and Street Profits is an interesting concept. And then with the arrival of LA Knight says, well, this is lovely. I hope I got the tone right that you were going for there. Gomar says, the crowd is behind LA Knight. It's really nice to see. So they're replacing what with yeah. Go on, you know what you're supposed to say. Jaden says, what do you think is going to happen in the championship match later? Carnage. Okay. Kieran says, wonder if WWE will learn from past mistakes though. Waiting way too long to push someone when they're over like they did with Braun. Quite possibly, yeah. Again, Sheamus was in the spot. I think he stepped aside. I think Sheamus has stepped aside for LA Knight. What is it in this place? Because there is a huge amount of signs. I know I keep referencing it, but it needs referencing. It's unusual. Brief, but strong. We're going to see a lot of that in the weeks to come. He's going to go back to Gorilla and he's just going to smile so wide. I think it's him. I think Sheamus has stepped aside. Sean says, Shotzi apparently shaved her head for her sister who has cancer. That's pretty cool. Credit to her. Did I just see the word brutality on the screen? Did they start launching Rhea Ripley's screen? I swear I just saw brutality. Bianca Belair making her entrance. Yes, Sean. Thank you for that confirmation. I'm not the only one who saw that. Megan says, I like what I like, and this is what I like. which is fair. Bayley also agrees by saying, yeah. Venom says they need to turn him face. I think they've chosen to get out of his way, and the crowd have turned him face. Connor says, I said to my mates during the shake-up, LA Knight would not win the briefcase, but would be the one to take the title off of Austin. I'm just waiting to be proven right. Seems like that's where we're heading very much. Leon says, slight botch gave Bianca Rhea's Titantron. Martin, how you doing, mate? So say, tell man all in chat, hope all is good. All is good, to be fair, Martin. This is genuinely a good SmackDown. A very good SmackDown, in fact. There was a very good draw segment for Jey Uso. Paul Heyman took a bump. We've just had LA Knight, who was literally there for a minute to cut a quick promo, but it's a promo that really worked out. We're about to have a main event, which is the Women's Championship match. It's been great. It's been genuinely fantastic. We just had a match that I gave a 9 out of 10. And I'm not the only one to do it. Venom says, how long is Strowman out for, Tom? Strowman will be out for another couple of months, particularly because they need to do some rewriting and work out a way to bring him back now. Ricochet's moved on entirely. Venom also says, any news on Big E return? I've already reported what I can on Big E in previous spoiler warnings. By all means, check it out. His name is in the title. Ring Scoops is chanting my name and acknowledging. Welcome, Ring Scoops. How you doing? Lovely to see you. How are you? It's been a little while. Mine says, Laters was catching up from spoiler warning earlier. I appreciate that, mate. Very much appreciate that. Spoiler warning's getting a lot of attention once again at the moment, and I'm really glad that it's happening. It's become a show that people aren't watching as much live as they used to, but they are still watching, and they're still watching catch-up, which means when they catch up on it, the show goes further anyway. So we're getting lots of views on spoiler warning shows recently. It's really working out. The channel continues to grow. We're on, I'm just going to do a double check, 2,514 subscribers. Considering this time last week we were on 2,497, so we've gone up by 17 in a week. That's pretty good if you ask me. Pretty good indeed. So I'm in a very good spot right now. I think the fact that I've got like a secure job now has taken a lot of the pressure off of the channel. I don't need to be churning out content constantly that isn't particularly lovely, as it were, and just doing the best I can. Instead, I can pick and choose news that I have something on. I can really go in depth on things and take a bit more time to get all the details ready and prepared. I can put some things behind the channel membership section, like the Drew McIntyre video, which I know people quite enjoyed as well. Martin says, loving the shorts lately, by the way, bang on. P.S. I found myself saying your chat engagement last night, asking people to chat to each other, so thank you. No worries, mate. You know as well as I do, I like to try and sneak in a few things on content creation, things that hopefully help other people like yourself who have their own channels, and just trying to help them with their growth. That also happens, of course, in the Discord. For anyone who's not in the Discord, we do a lot when it comes to channel management, content creation there as well. I've spoken about the Twitter algorithm. So if you want to learn how to get really big on Twitter really quickly, I highly recommend joining the Discord, because we do go into a lot of detail on that as well. I spent quite a bit of time working out the Twitter algorithm, and I'm pretty happy with the results I've been getting. Clyde says, great SmackDown, solid wrestling. Bobby Lashley, Iyo and Bayley in the background. LA Knight, they fit a lot into the 2-hour block. Yeah, I've got to say, I feel like the Bobby Lashley moment might be my favourite moment of the show so far. Sean says, I wonder if Liv had a replica of the women's tag team title. She didn't have her side plates. Renee Scoopsa says, I've been finding myself again in life. Last month I met a girl from the Philippines. I've been getting super close and we're in a relationship now, planning to visit her soon. Congratulations, mate. Very happy to hear it. Sometimes you do have to have those moments, don't you, where you take a step back and just stop and think, who am I and what am I doing? The first part of any battle is just making sure you know yourself, in and out, through and through. Taking stock is important. So I'm very happy to hear that, mate. Very happy to hear that. Martin says, over 2k now, on way to 2100, so loving it. You've helped and much appreciated. You are very welcome, Martin. Anything I can do to help, you know I will happily do so. I've told you before, I'll say it again, you're going to be overtaking me soon, and I'm very excited for that day. Connor says, are you going to go see Oppenheimer next week? Seems like your sort of film. Possibly. I'm interested. I also haven't been to a cinema in a very long time. Venom says, would love it if Roman just came and speared Bianca. Venom, I think you need to have a word with yourself. Just have a word with yourself. Jack says, Braun Strowman just had neck fusion surgery. He'll miss significant time from WWE programming. Yes, he will. Man says, it does look good. FIFA, to be honest, fancy it myself. I've talked previously about launching a football channel. The thing is, if I'm going to sit and watch football matches, I certainly have the opportunity to do that. I believe, certainly, I could do that with Champions League matches. And what I'm thinking, Martin, you'll be interested in this. What I'm thinking is I'll create my graphics, create a Discord chat, and then host a Champions League watch party with myself on the screen and audio from a select panel in the Discord. As long as you have your own screen and your own graphics, you can use the same actual content and it causes no issues whatsoever. So, for example, let's say, Martin, it is something in the middle. So let's say it's Chelsea versus AC Milan. And I say to you, do you want to join a watch party at that time? So you do on your channel, I do on my channel, and we have shared audio. I think that would be a great way to do it. That's one of the things I'm thinking of. There's plenty of football fans in here, I know that, who may also want to join something like that. Just jump on in the audio. You've got that as a possibility. I think that's something we could do, and I think that's what I would be doing in my own football channel. Yes, Gomar, this is indeed the main event. We've just seen Bayley and Iyo Sky walking in. Bayley holding a ticket. Iyo Sky holding a briefcase. Sean says, WWE keeps saying Bianca has the longest reign of the modern era. Alba Fire, aka Kaylee Ray, says, hello. The NXT UK Championship does not count. Connor says, I do love me some football. Certainly ways to do it. And mine says, StreamYard allows you to share streams now, which is good. That sounds pretty good. I don't have a StreamYard at the moment, or certainly I don't pay for StreamYard at the moment. I instead use the Streamlabs section. But hey, if I'm getting a separate football channel, that's certainly a possibility. Just as a general count, who here would be interested in actually watching like a Champions League watch party or something like that? Who here would actually be interested? My intention is not to be like, oh, I like watching Liverpool matches. Here's all the Liverpool matches. I don't have all the Liverpool matches. And honestly, I would like to go a little bit wider on it. Joey says, how is the main event? It is about 2 seconds old, mate. Martin, I use OBS Streamlabs. That's fair enough, Leon. I appreciate you letting me know. John says, why do Bayley and Iyo need tickets when they work there? They need tickets to be that close to the ring. They're not allowed ringside. Robs, how you doing, mate? Says, Lashley profits. Bianca is a Her Business versus Judgment Day. Oh. War Games? Give me that as War Games, alright? Oh. Love it. Mine says, what did Bobby return for and do? Sorry, missed. Bobby Lashley basically invited the Street Profits into his limousine to talk. And it's made me very excited. Charlotte Flair has also arrived with a ticket to essentially get in the way of Iyo Sky and Bayley. It's going to be carnage. It's going to be. Connor says, talking of football, thoughts on Liverpool and Man United transfers and transfer rumours so far? Yeah, absolutely. My intention, Connor, would be to do watch parties, shorts on transfer news, and a big live stream for the transfer deadline day. That's what I'd be doing. There would be videos in the meantime, but it'd be stuff like, match reports. You know, highlights from this match. You just write them as highlights. You follow the trends on YouTube. It's easy enough to do. And you just talk about the match that happened and just provide match reports. I think there's plenty to do there. Joey says, Naomi in the Her Business would have been great. Absolutely. And Martin says, Street Profits and Bianca become a new faction. Down for that. We haven't seen anything from Bianca Belair, just to be clear. Oh, Megan, yes, I do apologise for not reaching out to you about that one. Says, I meant to say I got my stream resolution up, so no more 384p for me. Congratulations, well done. Ring Scoop says, I want to see Dave Meltzer versus CM Punk in a cage match. Your wish will not be granted. I'm very confident of that. We've got 2 new followers here on the Twitch. Thank you very kindly for joining on the Twitch side. Like someone called Helen. Eric says, I feel like Bianca should be putting young talent over. Bianca's not quite there yet, I don't feel. Martin says, deadline day, I'm doing one as well. Let's talk, mate, in a couple of weeks. That potentially could be the launch of Colohue football. Just a big transfer deadline day stream where we host a show and we're just constantly checking the news, as it were, to give any updates we can on transfers and talk about rumours and so on. Like, that could be a marathon show, and I think there'd be a lot of interest. Martin has been a channel supporter for 9 months now. Thank you very much for renewing for quite a long time on that one. Venom says Bobby in War Games would be good. I agree. Megan says I've also managed to stay over 100 followers, which is nice. Pretty nice, yeah. It's a good feeling, isn't it? It's a good feeling. I remember when I first started, and it's hard getting those first few. It really is. Thank you, Martin. Appreciate that, sir. A very generous donation says, just a little thank you. Humbled by it. I am very grateful to have people like yourself in this chat and in this channel supporting us and supporting what we do here. Anything I can do to help the channels of others, I want to do. Connor says that would make sense as the opener for the channel. I think so. I absolutely think so. Naturally, it would be a non-monetized channel, so there'd be no ads or anything. I just think it'd be a fun launch. Eric says, who do you think are some of the best players who could move a deadline day? I'm going to keep it to wrestling at the moment. There's only 8 minutes left. But Eric, you may be interested in Colohue football when it does go live. Colohue Gaming is still expected to go live at the end of the year. The live segment for Colohue Gaming will be big gaming events. For example, I'd say E3. Obviously, it's not E3, but you know what I mean. EGX, events like that. Big gaming conventions and anything like the Sony Expo and the like. Martin says, once your channel launches, I can send loads over to you, mate. Any contacts, happy to help. Know a few people, just an idea. Appreciate that, mate. I very much appreciate that. We'll certainly talk more as we get closer to that moment. There's quite a few people who have pretty strong footballing channels who I definitely want to be working with and speaking to. I have a contact, a friend of mine called Omega Luke, who I definitely want to invite through a few of those watch parties, doing the exact same thing, and see if he has interest in that, and etc, etc. Connor, football manager, if I do that, would fall on football. Fair enough, Venom, you get some sleep. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you on Monday. Lovely move there from Bianca. Even better move from Asuka. Again, we have some decent pace to this match. I'm feeling it. Charlotte Flair is ringside, and I like that she's leaning forwards when there's a pin for. I like that. No worries, Peter. Appreciate that. Will says you did say Bobby was set to return, but I didn't guess with his storyline, but he called it weeks ago. Personally, I didn't think it was after SummerSlam, but he doesn't have a match at SummerSlam. That's what I was reporting. No match at SummerSlam. He'll be more involved post SummerSlam. I suspect that's exactly where we're seeing this go, I should say. A very good guy, Luke. I've worked with him before when he did cover wrestling back in the day. Nothing but respect for the man. Martin says, is Bianca a tweener at the moment? Seems not to have fully gone heel yet, but some heel tendencies. I like the tease. Yes, she is. Yes, she is. She's a face when she's in there against Asuka. She's a heel when she's in there against Charlotte. And I like that. That dynamic's working out pretty well for her. Lovely spine buster. Belair making sure she's in position for the hard cam. Oh, Asuka lock going in. Bianca gets away. Bit of a lackadaisical pin attempt there. There's just a lot going on right now. Those last 2 matches have been very good. Asuka waiting for a moment with a code breaker. He's a very good guy, Connor. He sent me raids before on Twitch, for example. The man He's a great example to content creators out there of what you can achieve. A kiss of death onto the table. The table did not break. All hell is about to break loose. 5 minutes left. Bayley and Iyo Sky have stepped in. Charlotte is trying to head them off with the pass. I'd imagine Bianca is about to get a big boot. Somehow, some way, I see it happening. Bianca needs to not be distracted here. Just let Charlotte do her thing. Iyo showing off the briefcase. Just the little additional threat. There we go. It was a spear to Bianca instead. Sean says, have you thought about doing a fake news breakdown anytime soon? Yeah, I do need to get around to that. Unfortunately, I've been doing a lot of family... I say unfortunately. It's not unfortunate. I've been doing a lot of family stuff recently. Haven't had time to put that together because there is quite a lot to it. Maybe in the Discord I'll have to open that up and people can like bring stuff in. I think that could be quite fun. But yeah, I've been meaning to do that and I've been trying to put it together. I do apologise for not having something for you already. Martin says, Bianca in the Hurt Business alongside her husband and Bobby would be awesome. Bianca could make an amazing full heel. They are teasing the cash-in. I don't see the cash-in happening. There is a Charlotte, there is a Bianca. They are killing time here with the whole briefcase thing. Asuka mists Bayley and leaves. She just leaves. Iyo Sky and Asuka, that's where we're headed. That's the big one for SmackDown. The day will come. The day is not today. Good SmackDown. Ryan says, family always comes first, mate. Absolutely it does. Appreciate the support as always, mate. Bayley still selling the mist. Charlotte literally just leaning on the table. Glaring. Kieran says, I hope they don't tease it every week. Me too. I think the moment they stop teasing it and you forget about it, that's when the cash-in's coming. Man says, Rhea seems lost at the minute title-wise. She just doesn't have top-level opponents yet. We need Becky Lynch to get involved. We absolutely need it. We're not seeing any of Bianca, really. Selling in the corner. Now she's picking a fight with Charlotte. I'm hearing Iyo lose her mind. That was a good SmackDown. I really genuinely enjoyed that. Next week will be on FS1. We'll see how it plays out. Sean says, I think Charlotte has been cashed in on the most. I believe that's true, yes. Megan gives the match a 7.5. Again, a well-paced match, but let down by the last part. It did go a little bit crazy. I don't think it quite had enough time, but the pace, again, was brilliant. Wiggly says, I love how Iyo is screaming at Asuka to come back. I like it. I like it. Martin's asking for Shayna versus Rhea. It seems like we are building towards some of that. Leon says this was a great SmackDown. Bayley gives the match an 8. Leon gives it a 7. Peter gives it an 8 as well. This has been a very fun show. Martin says, thanks, Tom. Have a great weekend. Have a great weekend to you and a great weekend to all of you as well. I am going to wrap it up there. Say a massive thank you to all of you for joining me. I've been Tom Colohue. I'll be seeing you over the weekend. Thank you very much for joining me.